what research and homework did you do to make that final decision? You are in finance, so I'm sure you looked at the numbers and the numbers made sense. You moved all the way from, was it New York or Connecticut at the time?
Both, yeah. New York, yeah. Brooklyn.
Yeah, all the way over there to here, so the numbers must have made sense. So why don't you break that down for me? I really want to understand that.
Totally. Well, and this is why it's serendipitous. We actually moved.
What's going on, guys? It's Steven Mandak, aka Mrcllutch, on the Moving Forward podcast. And today I've got a very special guest. His name is Jesse Bly, and he's the owner of the Junk Luggers, the territory in Silicon Valley. Good to have you on here, Jesse.
Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate it. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So, in the beginning of the podcast, what we kind of like to do is kind of get the backstory of where you started from, your first maybe experiences with entrepreneurship, and then go ahead and take it away.
I would be happy to. Yeah, it's a rush being here. I love the building, and I think this is all a good example of entrepreneurship in the making, and in its current form. So, just to give you a little bit of backstory, my company, the Junk Luggers, we're a full-service, eco-friendly junk hauling and furniture removal business. And so for myself, I have always wanted to do something entrepreneurial. I've always been doing side hustles and, all sorts of other stuff. Really, and what it comes down to is always just this boiling passion to be completely in control of my own freedom. So it's always been something I've been, trying to achieve. And again, like I said, I've always been dabbling here and there. And then, for a long time, I was working in commercial real estate finance in New York City. So that was most of my career. And I have a friend from school. His older brother founded our company, the Junk Luggers, back in Connecticut, where I'm from. And he just founded it he was just doing it as a summer job, hauling junk. And he built it into a really successful local business, regional business, and then decided to franchise it after building it out. And so his younger brother, who was my friend, opened the first franchise of the Junk Luggers in New York City. And so we were all working in New York City at the time, and I saw my friend start and build and grow this business. So ever since then, it was something I was interested in, kept my eye on, never was the right opportunity, but here we are. I ended up taking over this existing business out here in the San Jose area about a little over a year ago, and it's been great since.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Now, before then, you said you were working in commercial real estate, was it? Mm-hmm. And was that in New York City?
It was, yep.
Got it. So did you graduate from college or anything like that?
I did. So I went to University of Connecticut, UConn, back-to-back national champs, college hoops. So big updates there.
There you go.
Got to represent. But yeah, so I was in finance and real estate at UConn, graduated, worked in commercial real estate finance, basically underwriting large commercial mortgage loans for real estate developers.
All right.
And that's what I was doing most of my time.
Got it. So from there, did you take any of that knowledge from the commercial real estate and then put it into your business?
Yes. There's a lot of overlap, actually. And I feel like it's one of those things where the overlap is what you make of it, right? I could pretend like that was a past me and then just go forward and neglect whatever I've learned in the past. But the best thing to do is to leverage that experience that I do have. And the more you think a little bit, if you're thoughtful about it, you can really apply things that you've learned and connections you've made into anything you're doing going forward. You just have to figure out how to plug it in. So for example, I know the inner workings of how these properties and real estate brokers and offices work. So I can reach out to facilities managers, property managers. I know how a lot of these office liquidations work and things like that. And I have tons of contacts and I know how to make inroads with some of these groups because I know what they look like on the inside. So I know who the type of person I want to reach out to is. So that's one thing that helps us for sure. Another thing is hey, we're looking for a real estate space right now. I know what to look for as far as what rent, property type, what's a good deal, what's not. I don't want to just sign up for, bite off more than we can chew and take off a larger rent on a longer term lease than otherwise is necessary. So there's a lot of things you can apply from what you've learned in the past, I found.
That's great. Now, let's talk about when you were working in New York. Were you actually working at that first Junk Luggers location when you said your friend went ahead and started the first franchise?
I never worked there. I had lugged for them during some summer breaks and winter breaks and stuff back when I was in school.
Okay.
So that's how I kind of got a sense of what it's like to work at the company. And I honestly always found it a little bit fun. It's liberating. You're kind of driving around. You're doing different missions every day. You're going into new places, homes, businesses every day, and you got to be creative. So it's kind of I thought it was a fun job. I think a lot of people feel the same. I mean, it's still hard work,
Right.
but it's it's not the same like corporate grind every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a work experience, but I never actually worked with my friend's franchise in New York. I was always doing the commercial real estate thing there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, what intrigued you to go ahead and get into the Junk Luggers franchise? You said that you had took over like about a year ago. What was it that intrigued you? Was it because of your friend was successful? Your friend's brother was successful at it? Or was it just like, okay, this is a business I want to get into? Did you take a look at some other franchises before you got into Junk Luggers?
It's a great question. So there's a few things that really got me into it. One, yes, I've known about the brand. I know it's a good growing brand, and I know it's been successful in the past. I know other franchisees have opened it up, my friend, his brother, and so I know there's opportunity there for success in an entrepreneurial lifestyle. So that's one thing. The other thing is I like their mission. It's junk removal the green way. So everything with the junk luggers is trying to keep as much out of the landfill as possible. Landfill diversion, donate, recycle, rehome as much as possible. That's a mission that resonates with me. I grew up, my mom was like a total hippie, very like environmentalist like, and so she always like instilled a lot of those values in me. So I always, think twice about like using items or reusing items. So anyway, it's important to me, and I have an alignment in values with what the company does. So the brand, alignment of values, and then lastly, it was a bit opportunistic, I would say, which is something that always sparked some interest in me. So when I got out here, I asked my friend, is there junk luggers out here in Silicon Valley? And he said, well, in San Jose, he said, yeah, there is, but I don't think they're doing that well. And there's a pair of partners who were struggling with the business, really nice, smart guys, but they were struggling with it. And I saw the potential that could be unlocked here if they were just, I did all the homework and I figured out what they were doing wrong, what could be done, and just through a few easy changes, you could turn this business around. So I saw an opportunity to take something that was struggling and turn it into something that's successful.
Great. Now, did you take a look at a couple other franchises before getting into Junk Luggers? Because, I know that because I have a lot of friends that do own, that are actually the franchisor, and, they deal with a lot of like prospects and everything like that. So not all of them go ahead and move forward with their franchise. Did you take a look at, like, let's just say 1-800-JUNK, Junk King, or even like another service-based franchise, or was it just straight to Junk Luggers?
It was really straight to Junk Luggers, and I did plenty of homework and due diligence, and I'd be happy to get more into that. But what I wasn't really looking out for, I didn't go into this looking specifically to open a junk hauling business. I didn't go into it specifically looking for a franchise. It just so happened that there was more of a one-off serendipitous opportunity that I thought I could capitalize on.
Now, let me ask you this. What research and homework did you do to make that final decision? You are in finance, so I'm sure you looked at the numbers and the numbers made sense. You moved all the way from, was it New York or Connecticut at the time?
Both, yeah. New York, yeah. Brooklyn.
Yeah, all the way over there to here, so the numbers must have made sense. So why don't you break that down for me? I really want to understand that.
Totally. Well, and this is why it's serendipitous. We actually moved.
Hey guys, if you really like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. This will help the channel grow drastically. Share this to 5 different people that you think can benefit from it. Now back to the video.
Because my wife took a job in tech.
Right.
So that's the reason we moved. I kind of left what I was doing back in New York for the time being, and when I found this opportunity out here, it seemed like a good fit and a reasonable risk reward. I did run the numbers. I had an introductory call with the current owners. I did find out they were looking to sell. And then eventually we got to negotiation. But before even doing that, I wanted to make sure it was something I'm serious about. So I spoke to many franchisees around the country, other junk hauling franchisees. I spoke to other people who ran junk hauling businesses that weren't necessarily franchisees as well, or didn't necessarily own franchises. So independent junk hauling owners, other junk luggers, franchisees, and crunched the numbers and did a lot of other due diligence. I went around, saw what some of the other franchises are doing out here. They seem to be doing good business, so it's a healthy market. And the numbers added up. So that from there, I said, okay, this is worth doing at a certain price. I negotiated with the sellers, and we came to an agreement. And from there, we ended up just completing the acquisition.
Great. Now, tell me a little bit about that acquisition, because since they're a franchisee, was it hard to turn over the keys to the business from the franchisee over to you? Because me personally, I actually want to get in business and I want to go ahead and acquire some moving companies. So I kind of want to understand that process. Did you do seller financing? Did you get an SBA loan? Did you pay everything up front? How does that look like?
So basically, I did not take out any financing. I paid cash for the business. However, they were losing money, so it wasn't worth much. They had rights to the franchise territory. They had some assets, just a little bit. They have a truck, they have tools, they have some intellectual property, but really not much. If you're not making money, what's it worth?
Right.
Some people could say it's not worth anything. So, I paid cash for it. I would say it was different. It was a different process buying a business that's in the red versus buying a business that's in the black. When you're doing that, there's probably a much more difficult negotiation.
Right. And
you have to be more mindful of what you're acquiring. Whereas when you're in the red, they're just looking to get out. And so It was a little bit simpler. They were still very early on with their one truck. They didn't have all that much. Mm-hmm. So it was relatively simple to get it papered and to get the thing closed. Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome. Now, let's talk about when you become a franchisee, because I spoke to, we have a common friend, Shannon, and I had him on the podcast as well too.
Yep.
And they basically go to the headquarters and they do 2 weeks of training and everything like that. So you kind of get a sense of the business itself, but really when you get out there, it's totally different. So why don't you kind of talk about the 2 weeks, or I don't know how much training you had, and then when you actually got out to the field and did that, was there differences?
It was definitely a lot of trial by fire up front. Typically, when you come in and you start a franchise, and I can only speak really to the junk luggers, but I know that it's broadly similar, where you come in and you kind of, they vet you, you vet them. Once you decide, okay, everyone decides, okay, this is going to work out, we're a good fit for each other. You come in and you learn the ropes. You do, a couple months of training before you ever open up, and you do a gradual ramp up and kind of open once you're ready to go and all set. In this case, it wasn't like that. I took over day one and we had jobs immediately. I had to figure out how to drive the truck, operate it, how to do jobs, how to complete stuff according to our goals, and hire employees as well. So it was day one, we had to be ready to go. So it wasn't your typical process where you have a couple months of training. Mm-hmm. Luckily for me, I did get to go to a conference in Las Vegas that happened to be right around the same time that I was starting. So I got to meet with dozens of other franchisees, some of the vendors, people at corporate. So, I would definitely recommend, no matter who you are, if you're going into a business, just talk to as many people as you can, especially ones that are in the same line of work as you,
right?
And as comparable as you can get. So if they're either in your market, same franchise system, or if they're just doing it right, you don't want to learn from the people who are not doing it right. You're going to find the people who are doing it best and do what they say.
Right. Now, I've heard a lot of people that get into franchisee, I listen to a lot of franchise podcasts as well too, that community that you have of other franchisees, that's what people really get into these franchise groups, because there's such a big community. You can run things off of people and everything like that. How important is that to you, and do you find using that from your day-to-day business?
Man, that's huge. I mean, I would say there's a lot of value in being part of a franchise. There's no right answer whether you're going to do a franchise or do it independently. It's should you buy or lease a car? I always compare that. It's there's no right answer. It just depends on what you're looking for or what your goals are. But being part of a franchise system, there's a lot of power to it. You can really leverage the knowledge of other people. There's a lot of advice and skills you can get, shortcuts you can take, because you're leveraging the information of all of these other people in your same system. And there are other benefits to a franchise as well. So not only do you have the camaraderie and skill set and knowledge base of the rest of your system, but one other things that get included in what we pay for as a franchise. And you pay royalties, but you pay for other things as well. So we have a 24-hour call center.
Mm-hmm.
We have a national accounts team that sets up strategic partnerships with other commercial businesses that basically enable us to do jobs for them without having to have an in-house business development person at that level. And we'll still want that, but they're striking up those relationships for us. All the technology and infrastructure essentially is in place already. Like I said, call center, the booking and scheduling platform, payments, all that stuff. So you really can come in and just turn the key and get started. And there's also national marketing campaign. And lastly, I know you and I have talked about this a bit, but one thing that's good is if the brand becomes big enough, it can be desirable to people and people want to get in. So, if they start to have territories taken up throughout the country, well, there can be a little bit more of a demand for it. So if at any point I want to exit or, to get a sense of value in my business, there might be a limited supply of available junk luggers territories to open, and that might help enhance the value. We've talked about that where, you're building your brand. We're doing it right now.
Right.
And eventually, like that brand will have, some value to it. It'll have a higher demand potentially. And you can then do more with it.
Exactly. Now, your call center that you that has them booking calls for you, like I have a call center pretty much in the Philippines essentially. So like I know the value of it. So for your call center, are they booking your jobs like mainly like day in day out, or do you kind of do a little bit of both? How does that look like? And you said they're taking payments and invoicing. How does that look like? I know every single franchise model's a little bit different. I have a buddy in Tampa that he says he has his call centers like at the actual locations, and he doesn't have like one strong call center. I have another buddy that has a call center that books for everything, does dispatching for all their moving companies. How does that look like for you and your call center? Everything's a little bit different.
We've got a great, amazing team. So our call center is led by a guy in our system named Greg, and he's built a few call centers in his career. But what we have going on is great. I think we're about 40 or 50 people, and
huge.
Yeah, maybe half of that are located in New York on the East Coast. Half are located, I believe, in Utah. More of a West Coast time zone. So, they have overlapping coverage, but also extended coverage given their different time zones.
Right.
And they're all here in the U.S. So that's one thing. Language is not a barrier. I have worked with people in the Philippines, and it's extra tough to train them and to not get the customer frustrated with, language differences or heavy accents, that type of thing. So I know how that goes, and that's why I respect it so much when you're able to build a call center yourself. For me, it's kind of the easy route that you can just come in and have one. But they will drop appointments on my schedule. It happens every day. They'll field a call, they'll get the information, and they'll drop it on our schedule on our platform. They don't do the payments and stuff like that. That's all done on our more on my end on the tech side of it.
Mm-hmm.
But they will do the scheduling. They'll call me with questions if there's random questions that come up. And, they're really great with their script and answering, just speaking to the customer and kind of getting them through the whole process.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, so when I first started my moving company, right, I didn't know whether I wanted to do like hauling or moving. And at one point I was doing like hauling, and then one point I was doing moving, other point I was doing logistics. Now, I remember when I was doing like junk removal hauling, I always would get these one-off jobs where it's like, move this, like dispose this couch, dispose this, like, does your call center have it set up where one day they put everything in the calendar all at once and like you just drive out and you have like all these things to knock out, or is it like a one piece type of thing per day, per job?
Yeah, so they will just do one appointment at a time. When one customer calls in or wants to schedule something, they'll put it in one at a time, and it's really on me and my team to set up the scheduling of it. So we have certain routes we run. We'll try and optimize for efficiencies and make sure we're not going, all the way to Evergreen and then all the way back to Palo Alto and then back to San Jose again. We'll try and, that's on us to kind of consolidate and optimize our route. But the call center will kind of just do whatever the customer wants. If they'll look, they'll see if we have availability. If we don't, they'll call me and just double check anyway. So that's always great. But it's on us to kind of manage that daily flow of jobs, by tweaking the schedule and stuff like that.
So you're in communication back and forth with your call center.
Correct.
So they call you and say, this, can you do this? Can you do that? So like, it's not just put on your calendar. We don't say anything. You have a good relationship working with your call center.
Yes, it's both. They will just drop stuff on it. If my schedule shows availability, they'll just get it booked because that's their goal, right? They want to convert. and it's on me to make sure that we're good. They're not gonna if it's it's within reason. If it's gonna be like same day and within like an hour, they'll call me ahead of time. Hey, can you do this? But if it's same day later in the day, they'll just drop it on there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
New to business, right? New to business. Because I remember when I was new to business, I literally, we had a conversation when we had lunch the other day where it's like, we're always trying to, we feel like we're not doing enough, or, we want to get everything situated. I remember when I was new to business, I was like, dude, this fucking sucks. Everything, like I would fuck everything up. And then I'd just be like, why am I in business? What was your biggest obstacle when you kind of came into business? Being new to business, did you have a business before that, or were you you said you're doing side hustles, but you never had a business before. So coming into business now, what are some of the biggest obstacles that you kind of face?
I would say I was working for myself.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say I was running a business. Obviously, those are two very different things, and I was doing a lot of side hustles and working for myself, and definitely some entrepreneurial pursuits, and using VAs in the Philippines who would help out with certain things. Especially like I was flipping some properties in the Midwest, so I was kind of had a little bit of a cold calling process for that to try and find leads, that type of thing.
Wholesaling?
I was doing some of that. Yep.
Some of that?
Yep. Some of that. Some other otherwise just flipping, so a little bit of everything.
Okay.
And but again, that it's hard to set up something that you can call a business. Like I'm always my own biggest critic, right? So I'm always like, I have that doubt, like, or to call myself an entrepreneur, or like you feel that imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Oh, is this really a business? No, you're just working for yourself. So you got to watch out for the self-hate a little bit sometimes too, the self-doubt, But so when you have those good moments, you really got to run with them. But this is my first business. I would say the biggest challenge, honestly, has been growth. It's just been growth. It's not been maintaining the business. I've been really lucky to find some great guys to join my team and kind of work on behalf of us. And so if you bring on good people and you treat them well and you treat your customers well, everything else comes kind of easy, except for growth. I found growth is really tough.
Right. Now, I get it, right? Growth is definitely tough, because I remember when I was like kind of in the business, like the first 2 years were like really tough. Like, where do I get business? How come the business isn't growing? Every time I would grow, I would lose a good employee. And then like, in order to grow, I had to buy another truck and spend some more money. And I'm just like, fuck, what are you doing to grow your business? Like, what avenues have you taken? Are you like spending more on marketing? Does your franchise help you with that as well too?
Yeah, they have national marketing that
Okay.
they do. They have ad campaigns. They have TV commercials that run, and they advertise on the local level, and they do a lot of the SEO related to our websites, and some of that. But it's on us to perform marketing at the local level.
Okay.
So any like local digital marketing campaigns like that, email campaigns to people here on the ground, that's all on us. For us, it's funny because I said growth was the hardest thing. Actually, and I'll elaborate a little bit further on that.
Yeah.
We've been able to generate a lot of good business. It hasn't been sales or revenue growth that's our problem. It's keeping up with it that's been our problem.
Okay.
So, for different companies, it might be different things, right? You might have too much infrastructure and not enough sales.
Yep.
We've been able to grow the sales, on a very good multiple of what we've been doing in the past, but it's keeping up with the infrastructure, the trucks, the real estate, the staff. So that's the challenging part for me. And, there's no one at the franchise to do that for you. You got to be the entrepreneur and figure that out yourself. So no matter what you're getting, you still got to do those things, and you're on your own for growth.
Right. Now, when you say that, like, are you not having enough employees, or are you not having enough trucks? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, it's both employees and trucks. So, what we're doing is we're closing off the schedule a lot because we're
really
filled up. Yeah. And so but to me, the good news is that tells me, hey, okay, we're ready to go. We're ready to go. So we have a truck coming in probably next week. That's going to have roll-off dumpster capabilities, which is going to be almost like having 1.5 trucks, because you can swap out the bins and stuff. So that'll open us up a bit. And we are hiring now too. So we're trying to add a few more drivers, a few more good guys who can help us. This year we want to get a real estate space. We want to get a business development person who can help us continue to drive revenues as we grow. And you know how it is. You got to push everything up an inch at a time. You can't just just get revenues but not grow the other part of it too, or vice versa.
Yeah, you still have to maintain that net profit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've actually done something like that too, where I grew the revenue but wasn't really looking at the net profit. But typically, if you're in growth mode, at least for me, I mean, from my experience, I was in growth mode. I was taking all the money, putting it back into the business, and at one point, it finally just hit, and I was just like, oh, okay, cool. It definitely helped out. Now, when you're with your employees, does your franchise help out with finding good employees, or are you doing that on the local level as well too? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. No. It's so that's on us. I mean, they have some resources that they'll help with. They have some good partnerships with some of the recruiting platforms out there. So we'll get like discounted rates, or they may have like templated job applications or job postings that we can use. So like I don't have to go. I can just take one and kind of make some tweaks to it and then get it posted. It's a time saver, but it's on me to take the action to say, hey, I need guys. I'm going to go on. I'm going to speak to the platform and post and interview people and get it done. It's entirely on the local entrepreneur to do that part of the process.
Got it. The reason why I like to ask these, I really like to interview my franchisee guys, because I'm like having thoughts of either I license out, franchise for my growth and everything like that. What's your favorite thing about being a franchisee?
It's a little bit what we touched on already. I would say it's the camaraderie of having kind of a family that a lot of people are doing the same thing, in the same boat as you, same struggles, same types of wins. And it's sometimes when it's 1 a.m. and you're like doing your own thing in that lonely entrepreneurial world, and you're just you're hating life because something bad happened, or you're just facing some kind of challenge. To have the camaraderie there, to get to see other people going through the same thing, or presenting solutions for what you're going through, is super helpful. Every job is different, in our business. And so to be able to just, when we see something extreme, just to kind of post it on our Slack channel and have at least 2 or 3 responses on how to tackle the problem, because people have seen it before. It's super helpful. That's one of the best parts. And then also when you have wins, you can share them too. I could share wins with you, I can share them with my wife or my friends, but when you have other people in the system to share it with, it just continues the camaraderie, and it's really great to work with those people.
Yeah, and I think in the social media age, people pay thousands of dollars to be in masterminds, and to be in a Slack group, I think they call it Discords and everything like that. People pay all the way up to $5,000-$10,000. So for you to be able to have it, that helps out a lot. So now, what is some of the plans for the business? Because we kind of spoke about this. Are you looking to scale to more territories, or are you looking to stay in the business? What kind of plans do you have there?
It's a great question. I think I'll start by saying my general goal for what I'm doing right now is I want to build a great business with great people and great results. Mm-hmm. So that's the big picture of what we're trying to do. And while that's not specific, I would say we want to accomplish that by dominating our local market here in the South Bay. So we want to, in the next handful of years, grow our fleet of trucks, grow our staff. Obviously, we got to grow revenues to match. But we want to dominate our local market here. Mm-hmm. And once we've done that, then we'll want to explore branching out into other territories. Now, where we are here, the geography well. It's the Bay, right? So there's water, there's mountains. It's not like there's just miles and miles of endless territories. We're a little bit boxed in, which can be a good thing for sure. But as far as territories go, it's limited with what within the franchise. It's limited with what we can do. Now, there's always territories outside of this area too. Yeah. So I know a franchisee, my friend Joe down in LA. He just opened out in Phoenix. Okay. So there's always that opportunity. But for me, again, it's just back to dominating the local market here, and then seeing what other opportunities present themselves in this area or beyond.
Got it. Now, I know that it's pretty much general information, especially with a franchise what are typical profits for a junk luggers location, or any type of junk removal location? Because I know with the moving industry, bottom profit is if you're running like a decent moving company, you're at 10%. If you're running really good margins, really tight, lean, you're running probably 20 to 25%. What's a typical net profit per location?
Exactly the same as what you just said. I would say, if you're just doing okay, you're probably at in the 10% threshold. If you're pretty darn well, pretty optimized, you're 20 to 25%. You're doing pretty great at that point, margin wise. It's not the highest margins. It's tough to achieve because there's a lot of expenses, a lot of variables,
right,
and it's very commoditized.
Right.
So it's hard to achieve that upper. It's hard to achieve that upper range of the margin, but there's different ways you can do it, and I think operating at scale is one thing that enables you to do that. So, when you're just a small operation with, one truck or two trucks and operating out of a storage unit, it's harder to optimize and be efficient with that.
Right.
And you're going to eat up more costs because of that. But when you start operating at scale, that's going to allow you to open your wings and do a little bit better. And on top of that, and you and I have talked, but I've seen you talk a lot about beyond just your core moving business, right? Like renting storage space, right? Like that's one thing, like a great business to be in, or maybe, expanding your brand and licensing out the franchise. So there's other ways you can increase your profits outside of just making the margin from your core business. So one way that we can do that is it's also part of our franchise. There's a secondary business called Remix Market. It's basically a secondhand goods store that would be a bolt-on business to what we're already doing. So we'll take in really good inventory, like some of the stuff you guys get, let's say it's like CB2 or West Elm Furniture, all sorts of just secondhand goods that are still perfectly good that can be reused or resold. And we'll put those zero-cost inventory goods into a store and we'll sell them, and we'll help redisperse those throughout the community and give people a chance to buy things at a lower cost that they otherwise might not have.
So is that a add-on to the actual business, or do you have to buy into that part as well too?
No, that's an add-on to the business. However, if you're using the branding and the same marketing benefits and call center benefits from the franchise, you're going to be paying royalties on that as well, similarly to here. So you don't have to buy into it. It's already included in what I do. I already have it's included in my franchise agreement. But you want to focus on building, at least for me, I want to focus on building and dominating our core market here with the junk hauling business. And then once we're operating at a solid, sustainable level, optimized level, that's when I would explore opening up into doing more of a secondhand goods store.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I've always seen that. So I've always seen, whereas junk companies, they'll take furniture, or else even moving companies, they'll take furniture, they'll put in the storage unit, and they'll repost the stuff on eBay, Craigslist, and people. I've seen this guy on social media. He did couch. What is it called? He did couch flipping, and he was making tons of money doing that. Are those some of the best ways to optimize the business? Because at least with the moving industry, right, there's a couple of ways to really optimize it, where it's you really, really manage your payroll, manage your employees. I'm trying to think, having a higher close rate. What are there any other things that you can do to increase the profits on there? What is one thing that you hone in, you focus on? For us, we make sure that our payroll percentage is the lowest it could be.
Yep.
Is there something that you guys look at?
Totally. So there's always the basic things, right? You can increase your revenue, you can increase your prices. Let's say you could try and keep your labor down, but I don't like to start there. Typically, I think optimization is a great place to start, because again, if you're optimized, when you start to scale, that's where you're going to still continue to see those benefits play out. And so reselling stuff is reselling and donating and recycling are huge tailwinds to your profitability.
Can I ask you this? Do you guys notify the customer that you guys are going to go ahead and take the furniture and that you guys are going to put it to the secondhand store?
Absolutely, and they love that. At this point, if people want to sell something themselves, they're going to do it at this point. By the time they call us, they've already come to terms with it. They said, you know what? Either I tried it or I just don't have the time for it, and I want to pay to have it gone. And to them, it's actually better. We get customers all the time that say, hey man, you should sell this, you should do it. They just want it out. That's their number one and only priority.
Yeah.
But if it can be rehomed and not go to waste, especially if it's something that's been in their family or that's brought them a lot of joy, or it's still perfectly good or has value, they love to see it just be rehomed and go to another use. And whether we're making money off that or not, for that, they're more than happy to see that happen.
They actually feel better about that. I've actually had a lot of customers that are just like, oh, why are you going to throw that away? Like, it's still good to use. Can't you use it? And we're like, no, we're not going to use it. What are we going to do with it? Like, my employees may want it, but we actually have like a rule here where we don't take the stuff from customers, because sometimes, I think one time in the past, one of my guys would, go there and be like, hey, are you getting rid of this? So like, it made the customer kind of feel uncomfortable.
That's definitely a slippery slope for us, and that's a challenge that I think we're trying to get ahead of as well. As we grow, we're going to have more guys, and the problem is, we're taking a lot of stuff, and like, it's everyday stuff. Like, our guys will want it. There's some things that I like to take, right? But it can be a bit of a challenge. That's one thing with this business is like, hey, when you're getting all of these items for free and you're getting paid to take them away, like, people want them, so you have to figure out how to manage that within your team. And I think, one way to do that is just having a policy where like, hey guys, we're not taking stuff. It's for, it just either gets donated or sold for the business, but no one's taking stuff home. So that's one way to do it. We haven't quite found that solution for ourselves yet, but it's something that we're working on. Gotcha.
Now, I know that me and you had the conversation before regarding content. So like, did you actually start putting out some of the content that we spoke about before, or?
I've been keeping track and making content. However, I've been a little bit slow in getting it out. So I think that's good and bad. One, I just haven't been focused on it. So shame on me for not really doing it. But the good news is now I'm going to have a little bit of a pipeline. So, inadvertently, I'm going to have a bit of a pipeline that I can just kind of start dropping stuff out there. So I know people do that on purpose, like, savvy marketing people, they'll just like build a pipeline and then just start deploying it.
Yeah.
More of an accident for me, or, whatever, that I just have a bunch inventoried. But the good news is I've been making the effort to create content, just haven't really gotten it out there yet. So, that's obviously the most important part, but it's there. We'll be taking your following your guidance on that and doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So actually, that's something that I had to get used to, because like when I took a look at everything, actually I had like multiple people ask me like, dude, like how much are you spending on content a day, a week? Like they think that I'm like really behind the desk and like shooting content for like 8 hours. I think that's all I do, and I'm like, no, I really just back up all the content. When I back up all the content, it's like we shoot like 30 videos, in that, like from this podcast, we'll take like 5, 6, 7 clips, and then we'll just go and post one, every single day, and then we shoot a couple of these. So it definitely helps out a lot on there. And then yeah, but a lot of people have this perception that content is time consuming, but really, I mean, if you put the effort into it, it doesn't take too much time. And then also, like, the benefits of content has definitely helped out. Like me and you spoke about it before, like, being able to show up on people's feeds, and like so many times people are visual, right? And the way that I look at it is that if people are doing like the same marketing, like, so many ways and avenues that you can kind of go ahead and do marketing, right? You could do like local services, SEO, Yelp, all those things, but how to differentiate yourself amongst, all the other moving companies that I'm going against. I've got content, and I take a look at some of the other moving companies posting content. I'm like, I'm posting 4 or 5 times a day. You're going to see my stuff, right? So it just builds brand and builds value. Is that where you're trying to get to?
Absolutely. And when we met, I asked you, because I love the content you put out, and I being new to it, I'm just like, what's the point of it all, right? And I asked you that when we got together, and you made a couple good points, and the two that I remember the most vividly were, and that really inspired me to do more, is one, I mean, obviously it just keeps you in front of your followers, and a lot of which are your clients or potential clients, right? So it just keeps you in front of them. So next time they need someone to move, it's just like any other marketing. They're going to see your podcast pop up, and they're like, oh yeah, Steve, let me just call him for this client, for this move. That's one thing. It's obvious. The other thing is, hey, you're working on building a brand. I know you just talked about it, but over time, the more of this you do, the more brand you build, the more people recognize you and know the name Mrcllutch Moving, the more value it's going to be, and the more you can do with it down the road. So franchise or not, 2 very relevant reasons for me to continue to get more into that and continue to do the same thing. I think that's super valuable.
Yeah, no, for sure. And a lot of the times people always want to put like a face to the company, so they kind of know who they're working with, and then also like your values as a person, right? And then like when you speak or you talk, it is the truth. People kind of judge you on certain things. So if you're well spoken and they know that you're clean cut, how does that translate to having the guys come out there? You care. If you care about yourself, they're going to see that. They're going to say, okay, he cares about himself. He's sending out a company that are sending out guys that are definitely going to care. So and for me at least, it's definitely helped me get into like a lot of places, and it's definitely helped me meet a lot of people. I think I was telling you before, like I interviewed because of social media. They found me on social media, and there were 2 other franchise companies, and I got to shoot a podcast with them, and I was like, wow, this is like crazy, because you could really have such a big reach on there. So I think that you should definitely continue to do the content and keep doing it, because you never know what's going to happen out of it. Does Junk Luggers, do they have like their own, like I'm sure they have Instagram, but is that something that they put a focus on with social media?
Yeah, they have, and they have a national and corporate social media presence. They also do more internal webinars, and they have a podcast. It's more for within the system.
Okay.
Than it is for external. But again, that's benefit. That's information I can harvest, and just constant education that I can learn from. So it's an additional benefit. So they do have a lot of content like that. They do have a marketing team that's helpful with content. If I ever need them to, if we wanted to put a sign up on this wall, I could just have them, give them the dimensions I want, and they'll scale it up and make a vector for me and that type of thing. So that's another area where it's helpful, as well as the marketing team. You almost have a out-of-house marketing group that will help you with those types of things. And I wanted to add that, one other thing is funny, because you mentioned people always say, oh yeah, like how much time do you spend, doing your podcast, doing all this content? And one thing they may not realize is all the help, you have like from your team. Like, you have Mario here, like does a great job, like all this setup, people don't know they think it's just like you doing every single thing. And the reality is it's not.
Yeah. And that's the honest truth. Like I used to think like, before, like content creators that were creating content, I used to think like, oh yeah, it's so easy. They just take the camera, they put it in their face, and they talk to it. But like really the production that goes behind it, the investment that you're putting into it, your editors, your timing, and it's like in the very beginning, I really wasn't that great, because I'd always stumble over my words and everything. And it just took some time, and after like a period of time, it got simple, it got easier, and it just started to flow. But when you really build a brand and you really want to focus on it, like it does take some time, and it does take a lot of effort. But I think you and you got Luis in your group as well too. That's putting
commercial
out
painting,
commercial painting. That's putting out content. And like what I always tell everybody, like, I want to make moving look fun. Like, moving sucks. Moving really sucks. So like I have this whole perception that moving is an old man's business, and it's boring, it sucks. Nobody wants to fucking move, and nobody wants to go ahead and make it look cool or whatnot. So my whole thing is like, I want to make it look cool. I want to have fun doing it. So like that's kind of one of our what is it called? In our branding, we're not your average movers, and we make it fun, we make the experience fun. So that's kind of what I try to convey out to the audience and everything like that. So no, yeah, for sure, keep doing it. I don't even follow. I don't think I follow you on Instagram or anything like that.
I wouldn't blame you. We don't have all that much great content yet. So I'll definitely send you the link to that, and we'll really get going now that I know you'll be following us. But the fun thing, man, it's like you said, you got to have fun with it. I mean. Moving, junk hauling, it's the same thing. It's one of these things. When I first was doing my diligence on this business, I was kind of saying to a friend, it's like, I wish I could just like do it from anywhere, remote, on a computer, and he's like, we're talking about like, oh, like, do you really want to do an infrastructure business like this instead of just being a digital nomad type of thing? And it's like, there's a lot of barriers to entry. As commoditized as it can be, there's a lot of entries to having a infrastructure-based business like this. And so that's a good kind of almost competitive moat within a already commoditized business.
Yeah.
So you can't just go out and start junk hauling. You need to have like, infrastructure and ability to trucks and labor and all that stuff. Same with moving. You got to have all the equipment and supplies. So that's one benefit to it. But as far as having fun, like, we'll we'll share stuff with each other, both on my team and within the franchise. We find like insane stuff. We find like, I mean, we've seen all sorts of things. I mean, we found human skulls. We found Marvin Gaye's old Grammy at his kid's house. We found wedding rings, death certificates that people thought were long gone. We found like all sorts of adult video collections. I found there's a Japanese sword, like a
katana.
It's not a katana. It's a wazakachi or something like that. I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's meant for short proximity fighting. You just pull it out and you have it's like this. So I have one of that I took home. I was like, this is dope. I'm taking this home.
Yeah.
Anyone comes in the middle of the night, I'm pulling that thing out like Pulp Fiction style. So you gotta have fun with it, man.
Yeah. What's one of the craziest things you ever disposed of? Like, I hear crazy stories, right, all the time. Like, I think for us, we moved like hoarder houses, and like we moved all types of weird stuff. And like I think I talked about in one of my videos where a hoarder house was like the most expensive move that we did. But what was like some of the craziest things you disposed of?
So we're only a year in, so we have seen some stuff. Actually, right now, we're working on a Wells Fargo parking lot that it's near a homeless shelter. And a lot of homeless people have come, and they've just, they've made it their bathroom, and they just they've like urinated and defecated all over the grounds, the parking lot, the walkways. There's trash. No needles at this one, luckily.
Hazmat too, huh?
Yeah, so we're kind of partnering with a hazmat group, and we're taking care of that. We're lugging away all of the old cement trash cans that are like 400 or 500 pounds, maybe even 600 pounds each. Because they've just been getting abused, and we're going to help them out with some power washing. So we're providing a full service solution for them. But there's stuff like that. Hoarder houses we've seen as well. I mean, you just see stuff in the fridge that's been there for who knows how long, or stuff that's
and they still ugh.
mail that's 40, 50 years old, but like in bulk. I mean, every single piece of mail that was ever delivered to this mailbox over 40 years has been there, is still there. And so, and we've gone through and sorted through it all for important documents, for spam mail. They kept it all. Yeah, and we've done some big jobs too. We've done some cool jobs for vineyards. We've gotten old wine barrels.
Oh, nice.
And the wine barrels are still good condition, but they're just not suitable for wine anymore. They get little cracks in them, and they allow oxygen in. So we've rehomed those. People have taken them to line their driveways to make planters out of. They're old. They smell like vinegar. They got stains from the wine, but people love that. They go crazy for it. So that type of stuff, we love like rehoming that around the community.
Gotcha. You've been in the moving industry. The junk removal industry for a year now. What's your favorite thing about the junk removal industry?
My favorite thing is and you might know this, you might have the same experience. My favorite thing is the happiness we provide to people. We don't need to sell our service. People know they need it.
Yeah.
So we don't have to go in there with much of a sales pitch other than why us. Mm-hmm. But these people are in need of something, and we provide the service to them. It's not so much convincing them they need it. They already know they need it, and they don't even know how bad they need it in some cases. So when we take care of them and we do, what we're supposed to be doing, to see how happy people are with getting their space back and just having some more freedom in their real estate, and even from the hoarder situations especially,
right?
Or even further, like if someone's parent dies and they just don't want to go through all the sentimental stuff. It's tough. Yeah. They would just rather push a button and see it go away. And so we do that for them, and we eliminate a lot of the stress and emotion that goes along with it. So we provide happiness to people, and I think that's my favorite part.
Love it. Now, kind of coming to the end of the podcast, kind of like to ask, what's one thing, or I like to ask a question like, what's one thing that people don't know about you and you kind of want them to know about? About
me personally, or about us as the junk luggers?
You personally, junk luggers, doesn't matter. It could be business or personal.
I would say, I'm just thinking about recent experiences. I'm an animal lover. Mm-hmm. I love nature, but I love animals. I have a dog at home. I love, when we go into people's homes, they have animals, all sorts of stuff I've seen. I've got a great picture. I got to post this. I've got a huge snake around my neck. I was holding someone's snake there. It was in a cage, and they, at their house, and I forget his name, and they were like, after the job, we had finished disassembling a bunk bed and hauling some stuff out of this kid's room. They're like, you want to like pet the snake? And I'm like, yeah, F it, let's pet the snake. And they like put it around me, and I'm just, here chilling with the snake in my clothes. So, Yeah, I truly am. I have an alignment of values with what we do. I'm an animal lover, a nature lover, and I want to try to, it brings me joy to help improve the community that we all live in.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe people already know that about me, but
Right.
yeah, and on top of that, as far as just like hobbies and stuff, like I love working out.
Mm-hmm.
Love doing hikes with my wife, my dog. We just did like a 4-miler yesterday in the heat. It was brutal, but
Ooh,
we had a great
nice.
time.
Where at?
It was, what she picked it. I just drove, but
Okay.
it was in Alameda County somewhere, not too far, maybe like 20 minutes north of Fremont.
Was it I forgot. I think it's like a really steep one.
It was steep at first, and then it flattened out. It was near Sunol, I think, is the name of the next town over.
Okay.
And then lastly, I love traveling, man. I love traveling anywhere in the Mediterranean. You can pretty much take me anywhere. I'm an adventurous, but the Mediterranean is probably my favorite spot. But South America, Asia.
You just went to Japan, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I just got back from Japan. And that was an amazing trip. We had an awesome time. The food, the nature there, the culture, the people, everything was A+ about it.
What was your favorite place to visit? Like just in the whole world, what was your favorite place to visit? Because I'm a big traveler as well too. I've actually been to Greece, Mykonos, and I'm planning my next trip to go to the Philippines to see my team out there. But what's your favorite place to visit?
My go-to answer to that would be Croatia.
Croatian. I've heard good things about that place.
Croatia is incredible. I loved Mexico City, DF, and Italy is just a classic as well.
Italy.
Yeah, you can't go wrong in Italy. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, there you guys have it. Jesse Blee with Junk Luggers. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Mario.